Bună dimineața și bun găsit la BU. Sunt Sabina Iosub și vă invit să rămâneți alături de mine în următoarea jumătate de oră. O să discutăm lucruri extrem de importante legate de mediu. Today, here with me in Brussels is the European Commissioner for Environment, Virginijus Sinkevicius. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you for having me.
We will start with a situation in Romania that is extremely important for the Romanians that are watching you right now. What do you know at the European Commission level about the Bâstroe situation?
So, of course, we are fully aware of the issue of dredging as regards the Bâstroe channel, and the Commission has informed Ukraine that any of the works that is done or planned to be done has to be done in the full transparency, first of all with the Romanian authorities. Secondly, if any of the works are planned or being done, they also have to undergo the full environmental impact assessment so that it would show the impacts to the transboundary issues, that it would show impacts on fish, on biodiversity, and on nature in general. And of course, we are keeping a close touch with Ukrainian authorities on that.
We know that the experts of the European Commission are exactly now in Romania and in Ukraine, are going to see the situation, but they will only discuss, let's say, with Romanian and Ukrainian parts. They will not go to see with their eyes what is the death of the water.
No, this mission also can be taken as, you know, a mediation mission, as a fact-finding mission, which will also get give an opportunity for Commission to have a full picture, and then, depending on the evidence and information that we have, accordingly act.
Let's explain a little bit what will be the situation if you find out that the dredging was below 3.5, so it was more than it was supposed to be. What can you do actually as European Commission?
So again, on one hand, we cannot preempt any of the findings.
Of course. I was just saying
about the possible next steps. Ukraine is part of the ESPO, Aarhus, and other conventions which they have to, of course, oblige by the internationally agreed rules. So, again, let's not run into any of the conclusions yet. We will fully investigate the situation, and then on the findings that are found, we will, of course, act accordingly and in full transparency with Romanian authorities.
Will this take a lot of time, or we are discussing about days, weeks?
No, we will take it as a matter of priority. Of course, these situations are usually complicated, and I understand people's frustration, and they want an answers, you know, right away. But in order to have a clear answer based on the evidence, it will take some time. But of course, we are taking this matter as a matter of priority.
Prior to this situation, have you received, as Commissioner for Environment, some data regarding some, I don't know, things that are planned to be done over there, or so?
Directly me not, but of course we need to check with our services and agencies. First of all, you know, I think what's extremely important is not necessarily that the Commission is informed. Usually the first ones who have to be informed is the Romanian authorities, and as regards Ukraine, they of course have to keep Romanian authorities in full transparency.
I know that you've visited Romania several times. Have you been to Danube Delta?
No, I haven't been to any other parts than of course Bucharest. But that might be still in my plans, because we still have unsolved issues as regards the forests, and I know there is a lot that civil society wants to show, that ministry wants to show, so I might have to plan another visit to Romania.
As you've moved to this subject, let's explain what is the situation of forests in Romania as regards the European Commission's view.
So, on one hand, I think, important progress has been done, especially as regards deployment of SUMAL system and improvement in legislation. There are still needs and there is still a need of work that has to be finalized. For example, updated forest management plans, and we are working very closely with the ministry, with Romanian government on that issue. I've had a talk with the minister, where he, of course, presented all the matters that he have done, all the legislation that he has introduced, and the progress that is being done. I always like to listen to both sides, so very soon I will have a meeting with the civil society, who will also have an opportunity to present me the way they see their side of the story. But undeniably, some progress has been done. Is it enough? It's difficult to say because the work is not finished yet. And we, of course, would like Romanian authorities to move quicker on these issues, especially when it was so society-sensitive matters, where lives been lost, where forest rangers were attacked, injured. So of course this is unacceptable, and the government has to find ways to prevent it from happening.
We know that also a subject on the European Commission's agenda, let's say, regarding Romania is the waste management. You've done a lot of work trying to see how Romania is tackling this situation. What are the news in your opinion? So,
of course, on waste there are still many challenges that are unsolved, and Romania has to do a much better work. We have several ongoing infringement procedures. Romania should ensure the closure and rehabilitation of substandard landfills, the ones that are subject to basically illegal landfills. Commission decided to refer Romania back to Court of Justice and of the European Union for failing to comply. Of course, to date, we have still in Romania 33 landfills that still not been closed, and this is the time that Romania could face real penalties.
And are you still in touch with our minister regarding this subject? Do you have some promises that we are going to change the situation or not?
So we, of course, in constant touch. And it's very sad because, if you look at decade, not, past year or two, but decade, 10 years, Romania haven't done significant progress as regards the recycling, stepping up recycling, diverting municipal waste from landfilling. And it's therefore really the key reform that is missing.
We also know that some areas in Romania are under analysis regarding the air pollution.
Yep.
And I'm not only referring to the capital, to Bucharest, but some other cities are in the same situation. What will the European Commission do?
So here, situation is also not easy. Romania was condemned by the Court of Justice of the European Union for the breaches of air quality standards on the pollutant particulate matter 10, and could face penalties in this sector. So Romania has to take all relevant measures to avoid exceedances. not only in the cities, but other areas too. And the Commission has also decided in 2021 refer Romania to the court on the case of large combustion plants which have operated for years without a valid environmental permit, and they have also not respected the emissions limit values under the Industrial Emissions Directive. So very clearly here cannot be any other scenario. Romania drastically needs to improve its implementation of EU law on collection and treatment of wastewater, and of course ensuring that large combustion plants operate within the framework of the European Union.
Do we have a time limit? Do we have a time frame?
So unfortunately, I think the time is getting shorter and shorter, because this is not a new issues which were discovered. This is an old issues which are not properly addressed. And as I said, the further it drags in, the higher the chances that Romania might be penalized.
You've underlined that in some areas you are in permanent contact with our minister regarding the situation in Romania. I'm just wondering, did someone call you in the last 2 weeks regarding the Bâstroe situation from Romanians' part?
No, to be honest, I didn't have a request on that call. Of course, I need to check with my services, but not that I can recall. This situation was known for me, of course, from the media monitoring and seeing what's going on, that there is a high debate in Romania that touches as well on the legislation that is under my supervision.
So no official request?
No official request that I can recall in the past week or two.
We will keep in touch regarding this subject, because the analysis is made actually right now during this week. But let's move forward to some European achievements. You've just achieved the Blue Deal, and I think it's important also in Romania under some aspects. Let's explain what is this new deal.
So, it's a global agreement, so-called BBNJ agreement on the protection of the high seas. This is a historic agreement because negotiations took more than 10 years to finalize the agreement, and still the last round of negotiations took 36 hours non-stop negotiating, so very tiring. But of course we are happy to reach the final agreement, the global agreement. Only, to be honest, Russia was against. But this is not more of issues as regarding the deal, but more of illegal and unjustified war in Ukraine matters. What's the importance of the deal? First of all, it gives us concrete tools to protect the oceans and the high seas. And we're talking here about the areas that are beyond national jurisdictions, which usually are not covered by any sort of rules. This being, of course, a big issue of in compliance with international legislation, with damaging economic activities and so on. Now it gives us a chance to have a clear rules, to have a harmonized, let's say, economic activities that can be done, and harmonize the protection of those areas. This is 2/3 of the world ocean that we are talking. So this is huge territories that are included in this deal. And most importantly, this is a fundamental deal as we speak towards the implementation of Kunming-Montreal agreement, which was achieved in December, because there we also agreed on 30% protection of the world's ocean. Without the BBNJ agreement, that wouldn't be possible.
What will be the immediate impact, let's say?
So first of all, of course, we want to ensure that oceans are able to deal with different pressures. One of them is, of course, climate change. We know that ocean absorbs large amounts of CO2, and also, of course, it regulates the temperature. So, of course, we will have a chance to have a sufficient protection. We will have a chance to regulate economic activities that are damaging and that they are not done in a sustainable way, and most importantly, to do it across the globally, which is, of course, an important that, you know, this is not only EU or the United States or Australia, but this is a global effort with other countries involved and on board.
Let's discuss a little bit about the climate change and some improvements, some steps that were made in the last years regarding this issue.
I think, you know, the good news, looking at the year back, you know, the biggest challenge we were facing when war against unjustified and illegal Russia's war against Ukraine started, Russia's propaganda was screaming that, you know, Europe is going to freeze. Europe now, because of their stance supporting Ukraine, because of their stance, strong stance towards the sanctioning Russia, will be cut off gas, and that will completely paralyze Europe. Nothing like that happened. In a year, we have a completely different picture. We managed through this winter very well. We ensured a steady supply to households, to our industries. The mixture of the Russian gas in our pipelines decreased by 40%. Now it's less than 9% only left. At the same time, we have managed to increase sales of heat pumps by 41%, increase of sales of electric vehicles by 15%, increase of wind and solar projects by 40%. Which at the end of the day, we not only, you know, cut off on our dangerous strategic dependencies, which is a big threat to our autonomy, we also managed in a year decrease the CO2 emissions by 2.5%, which is a huge victory considering the scope of the challenge that we were facing.
Considering this, is it possible in the near future to extend some terms? For example, I'm thinking of the coal mines. Yeah. In Poland, you know the situation, you know the dependency. Yeah. In Romania, of course, you know again the situation. Use of coal in general, or some other things that, of course, are polluting, and we know this. But due to the new situation, there is not enough time, or there are not enough money to really change everything in a second. Of
course, energy transition cannot happen in a short time. It takes time. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But I think Russia's war against Ukraine put all the dots, and we are in this sort of moment of not coming back, because it's very clear to everyone that our dependencies on fossil fuels are dangerous to us. And that we cannot have our strategic autonomy. So, of course, we have to ensure the transition. And I think this transition is going to be fast-forwarded only. That's not going to happen overnight. Of course, this project needs to be planned, deployed. We need to have a sufficient, materials to be provided. So the supply chains has to be in line. But I'm sure that year after year, the transition is going to be only speeding up. And the good news here that nobody owes wind or sun. That means our strategic independence. Also, that's a good thing when you look at, for example, coal or other fossil fuels. That's a significant decrease of pollution. Pollution that are dangerous to our citizens' health, pollution that puts enormous pressure on our biodiversity, pollution which already today harms the outcome of our agricultural activities. So I think this is a best possible answer. Green Deal, speeding up of its implementation and ensuring that those more than 70% of CO2 emissions that we produce from energy would be as quickly as possible dismissed.
Do you think we will be fit for 55?
I'm sure we will. By 2030, we will be fit for 55. The package is being finalized and adopted. But as I said, you know, when you look at the biggest chunk of that work, which is supposed to be done in energy sector, it's being already put front-loaded, basically, because of a clear Damocles sword that you cannot depend on regimes like the ones like Putin's.
In your mandate, you've seen a pandemic, you've seen an energy crisis, you've seen a war. Are you still, let's say, happy with the results that you've achieved due in this horrible period?
So, you know, you cannot choose the
era, let's say, yeah.
Exactly. And those challenges, I think, on contrary, they made sure that Europe unites, that we look for a common solutions. Yes, that takes uneasy debate, that sometimes takes a different positions, and very often it's seen as us arguing. But overall, we managed to keep the unity. Dealing with COVID, we remember the very first reactions where some member states decided to close the borders and they expected somehow that pandemic will go around and won't affect them. At the end, we ended being as fast as possible vaccinated. Europe was the first one to be fully open. Comparing to other, and you know, Europeans could enjoy freedom, and that's why that's due to the common procurement, common purchasing of the vaccines, where we were able to negotiate with the full weight of the European Union. Same goes with the war. From the very beginning of the war, Europe was united. We have now adopted 10 sanctions packages, which, you know, every package is a discussion and a decision of 27 different member states with different cultural backgrounds, with different geographical proximity to Russia, with different economic activities, economic dependencies and so on. Despite that, we remained united. We managed to provide help of almost 60 billion to Ukraine. And I think this is the beauty of Europe, that in crisis mode, we are able to cooperate together, we are becoming stronger, and we move the European project even forward.
In the end of our discussion, what is your message to the Romanian public that is watching you right now?
No, I think the message is very simple, that despite these uneasy times, we've been always there for you, and we were always able to find the best possible solution. Doesn't matter, this is a small transboundary issue as Bâstroe, which we discussed, or it's an issue which completely changes the set of the world as we see it, as pandemic or the war. European Commission will be active. It will involve all the member states, and we will always look for the best possible solution.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Commissioner.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Vouă celor de acasă vă spun să rămâneți pe Antena 3 CNN. Nu uitați că ne revedem și sâmbătă viitoare la 9:30. Cu bine și sănătoși să fim!